Okay, so welcome to the online tutorial for Geology Practical number 1. So here we'll be talking about the basic introduction about minerals and rocks, different types of rocks, and most importantly, instructions for submitting your Geology Practical report. So what are minerals and rocks? So minerals are basically a collection of one or more elements which are stacked together in a crystalline structure. These are the minerals or different examples of minerals, and a combination of these minerals will form the rock. An example of this is granite. Granite is a rock which is made up of a number of minerals: quartz, feldspar, and biotite. And looking at, for example, quartz. Quartz is made up of two different elements, the element silicon and the element oxygen. So here we can see a combination of elements make up the mineral, and a combination of the minerals make up a rock. So what are some of the important features of the minerals? One of them, which is its physical feature, is the hardness. So this is what we call the Mohs hardness scale. So we've got a different values or a list of numbers which range from 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest. I'm sure you've heard that diamond is one of the hardest materials, talc being one of the softest materials. This is a question about this topic, may come in the final exam. In your own time, please go on to UTS Online and watch this video, which basically describes the Mohs hardness scale. So the hardness of the material is basically its resistance to being scratched. So 2, which is gypsum, is harder than talc. What that basically means is gypsum can be used to scratch talc. If we look at quartz and topaz, topaz is harder than quartz. Topaz can be used to scratch quartz. So the harder the material, the more resistance it has to being scratched. So please watch this video in your own time. It's on UTS Online.
One of the factors.
So I'll go ahead and skip that. Other features of the material include the cleavage and fracture. So that basically means the way the material is formed, the different fractures, how the grains join together. Another feature would be color. So this is obvious. So this one's red, this one's yellow. Different minerals come in different structures, and that can give you information about the mineral itself. Luster, which is the amount of light that is reflected off the mineral. This one's showing that it's pretty shiny. Streak. So streak is when you get the mineral and you scratch it on another surface, it produces a powder, and the color of the powder is what we call the streak. So sometimes we might have different minerals which look very similar, and the only way to distinguish from them is by their streak. And then we have transparency, which is how much of the light can pass through the mineral itself. Next we'll be going on to rocks. So there are 3 main types of rocks. There are igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. So again, in your own time, try to find this PowerPoint on UTS Online. We have videos, and from these videos you can further understand what these different types of rocks are. However, it is pretty straightforward. So igneous rocks are those that have been formed from the magma, which is located underneath the Earth's crust. So this magma sometimes can cool underneath the Earth's crust, which can form intrusive rocks, or in the event of a volcano eruption, some of this magma comes up to the surface and it cools down at a much different rate and forms extrusive igneous rocks. So the second type of rock is sedimentary rock. These are basically they're formed from eroded particles of the rock, and under high pressure they form sedimentary rocks. So you can see here a very common characteristic of the sedimentary rock is the different layers in the rock. So over time more sediments are deposited on top, and under high pressure they form a new layer, and in the long run it forms a rock. And then we have metamorphic rocks, and these are different to the other 2 rocks. Why? Because they are formed from sedimentary rocks and igneous rocks from high pressure or with high pressure and high heat. So if you get sedimentary rocks or igneous rock, we apply high pressure and high heat, we form metamorphic rocks. So we've went over the basic introduction of these rocks and minerals. Now let's go over the assignment instructions. So if you go onto UTS Online, you will find this document. So this document is the introduction to engineering geology. This is what you see on the first page, and if you go onto the second page, or the third page, you will find a table of contents. So we have the introduction, the different information of soils and rocks, weathering, and the most important thing here is, I already have it highlighted, is Geology Practical number 1. So these are the instructions for preparing your Geology Practical. So let's go ahead and go on to page number 40, which is this page right here. It's actually page 42. Basically, this is a class activity. So what happens here is a group of students, let's say 4 to 6 students per table, you're given a mineral and 3 different rocks, 1 igneous, 1 metamorphic, and 1 sedimentary rock, and you're meant to classify these different rocks. So where do we find these rocks? If you've missed the tutorial, if you go onto UTS Online, so this is UTS Online right here, go into subject documents. One of these folders is titled Geology Practical 1 Video of Rocks and Minerals. Click onto this, and then you have a document which basically states the names and descriptions of the minerals and rocks. Let me open that one up. So this is what the document looks like. We have a list of minerals and their descriptions, and then the sedimentary rock, list of the different rocks and the descriptions, one for the igneous, and a list for the metamorphic rocks. So going back to UTS Online, this is what this document is, and then we have 4 different subheadings. Each of them have 6 different videos. So let's open up one of the videos. For example, let's say M14. So if I open up M14, I'll pause this video right here. So from this video, you can have a look at the different minerals. So this one's called M14. If we play the video, you can actually tell the different material properties. This one's pink, it's a bit shiny. You can have an idea of the different the fractures and so on. And you can pause the video and play the video at different angles. And what you'll need is a picture of this mineral to add to your reports. So your task here is to select a mineral, one mineral, and you have to answer the following questions. So one thing is you need to state its number, which is M14, for example. You need to describe its color. You have to estimate its hardness. So you have to answer if the mineral is crystalline. Give a brief written description of its habitat and the external form of the mineral. And from the lecture notes or any other type of research, you need to describe or state which type of elements make up this mineral. So for example, we just had a look at the mineral. So going back to that. So by watching this video, we can go on. We can read through these descriptions and try to find a fitting name for it. So by reading all these different minerals, we need to find the one that suits this type of mineral the most. And once you've done this, you have to state this in your report. So going back to the instructions. So once you've answered all these, then we can go to the rocks. So basically here, what you're given is you're given one rock from the igneous rocks, one from the metamorphic, and one from the sedimentary. So again, going back to ETS Online, you have to select one from the sedimentary, one from the igneous, and one rock from the metamorphic, and it could be any of these. So when you do this in a class, it's a group activity. However, everyone submits an individual report. So it's expected that everyone has a different type of mineral and so on. And from this, you have to answer these questions. So is the rock, you have to identify what type of rock it is. Is it igneous, metamorphic, or sedimentary, which is quite obvious. You have to comment on the rock crystalline structure and talk about the size of its crystals. Give a brief description of its texture, structural features. For example, does it have any fractures? Is it shiny? Does it have more of a matte color? And so on. So also refer to your lecture notes or other type of research. What are the minerals that make up this rock? And also give a comment on its strength. So how can you know if the rock is strong or not? So one hint is to look at its fractures, and obviously you can do some research and to see what makes up the strength of the rock. Could it be the minerals? Could it be the fractures? And the last part of the assignment is answering these questions. So what is the difference between a mineral and a rock? What are three most common elements in a mineral? Name a few examples of sedimentary, metamorphic, igneous rocks, which are rarely available in Australia. And the last one is briefly explain the different causes or the different causes of the earthquakes. Now, most of this information you could find in your lecture notes. There's online videos on the lectures. You can also find information from those, and also you can find information off Google. Now, one thing to note before you start your assessments, you can go back to ETS Online, and in the subject documents, there is a file which gives you information or instructions on how to prepare the Geology Practical Report number 1. So when you open this document, you will find instructions on how to prepare the Geology Practical Report 1. So it's very similar to the other document. So it tells you, for example, you need a photo for each mineral. You need to state its number. For example, it was M14. And you need to give it the name from that document. So is it a quartz? What type of mineral is it? You need to answer the questions. And at the end of each question, you need to provide your own explanation to the questions. You need to provide referencing. So if you use any references, lecture notes, sources of Google, and so on. And I believe there is a reflection you have to also submit. And that's basically all the information you require or you need to start preparing the Geology Practicals number 1.